When it comes to buying a commercial property, one of the key things that you need to look into is that is your tenant is be able to pay rent. And in order to understand that whether the tenant will be able to pay rent is to understand what is their business and how they are making money, and the amount of money that they're making, is this enough for them to do their obligation, in other words paying the rent. In this video I am going to share with you how you can do the reverse calculations, and I'll give you an example of what you can do to understand is that whether your tenant would be able to pay rent or not. If you want to know, then stick around. Okay, so you want to buy a property and you found out the rent is good, it's a positive cash flow. However, while you're doing the due diligence, this one thing that you need to do, which is the tenant will be able to pay rent or not. In order to know, you need to see that what is the tenant. So in this case, we are going to give you an example of a childcare because it is a big purchase. Most of the childcares would be ranging from 3 million, 4 million to all the way about 15 to 20 million dollars. So it depends on, but hopefully you'll get that idea of how this can be done. The first thing that we need to look into is that approved number of childs for the childcare, right? So we need to look into their cash flow, and of course you are going to, if you ask them give me your financial return or their profit statement, they're not going to give it to you, right? Because they are not obligated to do, and more importantly you won't get it. It's not something that, and most of the childcare generally, let's say it's a big company, so it is information is not publicly available unless it is a ASX listed company. So what you can do is that, let's say if you want to go with that childcare, the first thing is how many approved child. So if you say let's say 50 approved child, so that's the thing that you need to calculate. You need to see that 50 approved child. Now government gives a certain subsidy for the each child, right? And they get, let's say, whatever percentage that the child's fathers pay or parents pay, and the other percentage comes from the government. For you, if you are running a business and or like your tenant is running the business, they get what I could right now, perhaps it will be getting between 170 to 200, depends on the location. So if you do a quick research, you'd be able to see that okay, 50 approved child and they are charging, let's say, $180 per child per day. So then clearly you can calculate that 180 into 50, which is like $9,000 per day is their income, because a childcare income is from these childs, right? There is no other income that they have. So if $9,000 per day income, then you do the calculation, okay, 20 days or 21 days, so you say roughly about 180,000 is their income per month. So as a childcare, they are earning 180,000. So from there you would be able to see what is their revenue. So it's not very complicated, it's very straightforward. You can go and check, you can ask them that okay, how much do you charge? You can even call them and say that okay, as my thinking, my friend's child or somebody will be registered, and how much would be, they'll be able to tell you that how much is per child they will be charging, right? They are asking. So 170, 180, 200, how many approved children, then you would be able to do that calculation of how much potentially they can earn. That's number one parameter. The number two parameter is what is their vacancy. Now most of the childcare, it depends on where it is, are right now in Australia is like fully booked. Sometimes childcare they have 6 months, 1 year waiting time. So technically if you say that oh, I am going to admit my child to this childcare, you have to book it probably 6 months, 1 year advance, and what they call is the waiting list. So if that is the case, then they are earning the full amount, right? But if there is a vacancy, let's say out of 50 only 45 is being enrolled, then you can do the calculation and you can put this vacancy and get that revenue based on that, right? Whatever, let's say 10% vacancy, then that 180,000 will become like 10% less. If it is fully booked, then it is the whole 180,000. So that way you get that full cash flow, or rather like full revenue from that. Now the second part that you need to see, that if they are getting that full revenue, what is the percentage of revenue that can go for rent? Now in childcare, generally speaking, is that if that revenue is like 15 to 20%, it is achievable, like they would be able to pay rent. But if it goes beyond 20%, that's how you need to be worried, because if they cannot pay the rent, then sooner or later they will cut corners, they will find a way not to pay rent and all sort of things. So you need to look into what is the percent. So let's say again the example of 180,000, that means 180,000 into 20%, which is 36,000. So technically they can pay about 36,000 of their rent and all their outgoings. So then you need to do this reverse calculation and see that okay, the current rent is 30,000 and outgoings per month is 3 or 4,000, which is 34,000, which is below 36,000. If the current rent is 40,000 plus outgoings, it becomes like 45,000. That's the time you need to do this. Okay, how are they going to pay rent? Because if tenant is not making money, if the tenant is doing business is in loss, sooner or later they are going to move out. They are not going to keep doing the business. And even this in childcare, they want to make money. So a common calculation is that how much they are making money and how much percentage of that money can come as a form of rent. And as long as it is within that range, you should be okay. Then you say that yeah, they will be able to pay rent. So remember, every childcare, this is childcare as an example, that they want to make money, they want to do business, but as long as you do this basic calculation, if you can see these things and if you talk to the tenant and understand their business, then you don't need to go through their financial returns, you don't need to go through their cash flow, you would be able to calculate that as well. And if you do this, then you know that what you're buying, the tenant is going to pay rent, and as long as tenant is paying rent, you are making money, your investment is rock solid, and you are moving ahead. I hope this video give you kind of an idea of how you can do these things, how you can do the financial calculations. If you like this video, please subscribe this channel, as I regularly bring all these topics based on my experience, all the different commercial properties that we are buying, and more importantly how we do the due diligence. So it actually helps you to understand, and it actually helps us to reach out to more people like you. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.